Hello everybody, I hope you guys are all enjoying your day. Today we're going to be looking at a lot of storms impacting parts of the Pacific Northwest, including Washington, Oregon, and Northern California, where you could be dumping maybe a foot to a foot and a half of rainfall and up to 6-7 feet of snowfall in the higher elevations where the ski resorts are. So we're going to be talking about that during our video, and we're going to kind of be looking at the scientific breakdown of why this is happening and where all this moisture is originating. And also at the end of the video, I did make a forecast for individual cities. I made one for Portland, Oregon, and Seattle, Washington. I know those are the two big cities where these two cities are really going to be impacted with this storm quite heavily, and especially areas to your west will get impacted quite significantly with this event. So let's get right into it here. We have the National Weather Service pulled up right now. Winter weather advisories in this purple, and that's really scattered across the UP of Michigan into northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, and into eastern New York, Pennsylvania, and northwest New Jersey, as well as much of eastern Vermont, except for kind of this northwestern part of Vermont here. But that will probably fill in, and especially I think it'll fill in for northern Maine and northern New Hampshire quite soon. We have coastal flood advisories for a little part here of New Jersey and Delaware, and then pretty much quiet across the rest of the country. Really not a lot else to speak of except for this week full of storms over parts of the Pacific Northwest. So let's get right into it here with your precipitation forecast on the European model. Now you currently have some ongoing rain, and this can be continuing. This would be for Saturday, and now going into your Sunday, you get a little break in between storms on Saturday night. So maybe it'll dry off a little bit, but then you get some heavier rain moving in to Washington, Oregon, California, and then some snow breaking out in the higher elevations where you're higher in elevation and you're a couple thousand feet up in elevation, where you could be seeing some snowfall and some quite heavy snowfall at that. Now, this is getting into your Monday, so starting off the work week on a wet note here over parts of the Pacific Northwest, Western Oregon and Western Washington really look to be impacted with this the most, where you could be picking up maybe a foot of rain. So definitely some ponding on the roadways. You get a little bit of a break in between, really the daytime hours on Monday, and then right back into the action come Monday night. Now getting into Tuesday morning, very heavy rain, so your Tuesday morning commute is going to be pretty hectic over parts of the northwest, and then it kind of dies down as you get into your Wednesday. You get a little bit of a break, but then again, Wednesday night and into Thursday, you got more and more rain. I get a little bit of a break. Thursday night, you're back in the rain. So Thursday morning, you have some rain. You got a break in between, and then you get Thursday night, you get some rain as well. So very active pattern here, and we're only going to go out a week because after that, really starts to get not too reliable on the models here. So now getting into Friday, heavier snow, heavier rain moving in, and then kind of dies down. But then even if we go a little bit further out, you see we have some colder air potentially, and potentially a snowstorm or two for parts just interior of the coast. So just east of Seattle and Portland here could get some pretty good snowfall come the beginning part of February. So we'll have to see about that, and I'll make probably some videos on that if that does occur. Now, here is your total snowfall out of this event. Now, if you're above in these kind of these blues and these pinks, those are where you're seeing anywhere from about 2 to 6 feet or so of snowfall here. Now you see right along the Olympic Mountains here, or of parts of Oregon and Washington, you're seeing up to some areas reaching 4 or 5 feet here, and then as you get interior into Idaho, eastern Oregon, and into parts of Montana and Wyoming, you're getting a little bit more snowfall there, as you're a little bit more interior and you don't have that ocean effect where you're a little bit warmer there. So these areas will definitely get a lot more snow than the areas closer to the coast. Now, here's your rainfall. Now, let's go back here. Now, I'm going to outline these areas that saw some snowfall here. So, these are really the areas that saw snowfall anywhere in here basically saw some snowfall, as well as this area right here. Now we're gonna go over to precipitation map here and look at this. So you're seeing some of these areas kind of matching up here, but most of these areas are just in the rain. These areas along the coast did not receive any snowfall. So this is your precipitation, but in this form, in this case, since you're not seeing any snowfall, since snow would count as precipitation, these areas along the coast here, you're not seeing any snowfall. So this is all in the form of rain. And some models indicating especially those higher elevations, but where you're not quite at that snow cap, but you're kind of just low enough where you're getting that increased lift, you're getting that increased instability there. That allows for some heavier downpours, and that's really where you're seeing the brunt of this. But even as you get a little bit lower in elevation, you're still seeing up to 4 to 5 inches of rainfall. So a lot of rain that definitely is going to flood a couple of streets here, if not a lot of streets. Now, here are your winds couple thousand feet up in the atmosphere, and this really lets you get a good idea of, first of all, where these winds are coming from. These are very warm winds that are coming out here. These are winds that are kind of moving something like this. They're coming all the way from Eastern Asia and kind of moving across the Pacific. So these little disturbances here, these areas where you have less wind speeds, so these are wind speeds on the map right now, where you have less wind speeds, that's usually indicating a low pressure system, and these increased wind speeds, these are usually where you're having heavier gusts of winds, or where you're having some rainfall or snowfall, depending on your elevation. Now, as we continue, you see, this is all coming here. The main reason I showed you this is because we're taking a look at the North Pacific here, and you're seeing all these winds coming. It's what we call a fire hose jet. So this is coming all the way from Eastern Asia, going all the way across the Pacific and going straight into the Pacific Northwest. And usually this creates a very active pattern over the western coast, because you're having all that moisture just being filled into those areas in the west. And even if we continue this, you see it continues, and you just get storm after storm and entering these areas. You also have this high pressure that's out in the southwest, and this is what's happening. This is what's helping kind of bring in all this moisture. This moisture has to go all the way around this high pressure, and that's allowing for all these storms to kind of move right into the Pacific Northwest or into Southwest Canada, and that's really, it's an optimal setup for some very, very heavy rains or snows, depending on your elevation. Now, here's your precipitable water, and this is if you were to squeeze all the water out of the atmosphere, and this is in inches. This would be how much water would be kind of squeezed out. So, for example, if you were to look at the Pacific Northwest right now, in these browns, that's about half an inch. So that's pretty dry air, seasonably dry air here. So if you were to squeeze that out, you will get about half an inch of liquid out of that. So this is basically what you're seeing on this map, and it gives you a good idea, especially when you animate it here, where all this moisture is coming from. And this moisture is getting fed all the way from Southeast Asia, and then swirling back out into parts of the Northwest. Now, as we continue this, by the way, if you didn't know, this is where the Northwest is, or Southwest Canada, the areas that are being impacted the most out of the system are. Now, as we continue this, you really get a sense of how much moisture is being filled into parts of the Pacific Northwest, and you kind of see, if we go back a little bit, you see this little area of energy right here. Now, this is going to be that storm that could bring some snow to the Pacific Northwest. Now, as this is going to kind of move all the way off into the Northwest. Now, as we continue this, you start to see it starts moving, and that same general area of energy starts to move. Now, that the Model 1 doesn't go out that far to get that to see that fully, but you can kind of imagine that would move on to the northwest coast. But basically, what I'm trying to show you here is that there's a lot of moisture in the atmosphere, and that's coming all the way from parts of the South Pacific. So that's very, very moist, rich, warm air that's coming up through and into the northwest. So very active pattern, and a very moist pattern that we do have currently setting up. Now, I do want to show you, I made two forecasts here, 2 7-day forecast here, and this is really going to give you a good idea of what your week is going to look like over parts of Portland, Oregon, and then also into Seattle, Washington, and this should be generally the same for the surrounding areas. So here's Portland, Oregon, 7-day forecast. You see we're staying rain. Now, the lighter shades of green, that indicates lighter rain, and then as you get into the darker shades, that's more steady rain. And you don't have any of the darkest shades, that very dark green, but that would indicate that you would have some very heavy rain. But you see, we have some steady rain come Monday and Tuesday, and then even into Thursday, you have some pretty steady rain. And then you just have some rain showers or on and off showers of rain all the way from Saturday to Thursday here. So all the way from Saturday to Thursday, that's about 6 days, and even into Friday morning, you could get a little bit of rain. So very active pattern here. And now, as we go into Washington, it's even more active here. So, Seattle, Washington, you're seeing some morning rain come Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all rain over these areas. And temperatures generally staying around 50 degrees. Same with Portland, Oregon, temperatures staying right around 53, 44, 54 degrees there. So, you're not going to see any snow out of this, but it is going to be a lot of rain. And it's something that you should consider when you're planning out your work week, that you are going to have to contend with some flooded roadways, especially because you don't. There are some bigger cities that are getting 4 or 5 inches, and it's easier to flood cities than it is to flood just areas that are more grassy. So that is also something that is gonna play into this. Now that is gonna wrap up the video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications if you did enjoy this. Anyways, guys, that was Eli, the Weather Guy, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.